it was like, wow, for Diddy, what? That was a person that I looked up to, was a mogul. So, and I listened to all the artists that he made superstars. And so to have a chance to be able to be signed to him, it was amazing. It was like, oh my God, I'm here. I finally did it.
For years, people brushed Cat Williams off as crazy. They labeled him a wild prophet screaming at the night sky, someone to laugh at, then forget the moment the spotlight faded. But fast forward to today, courtroom cameras rolling, breaking news banners flashing, and suddenly those jokes sound a lot more like warnings we weren't ready to face. Diddy, once crowned the king of bad boy records, the mastermind of endless parties, the self-made billionaire mogul, is now the face of Hollywood's darkest side. And while the world scrambles to process it, we can't help but recall Cat on those hazy stages, shades covering his eyes, hinting at the chaos bubbling beneath the surface. Back then, it came off as part comedy, part conspiracy, but now it feels like he wasn't telling jokes at all. He was reading straight out of an indictment no one had opened yet.
It's the federal government building a case against you. Maybe you would go for the lesser offer, but again, that would be having to admit that he did something wrong. And the defense has always maintained that he is innocent. He has done nothing wrong, that this is just, these are just ex-girlfriends that are mad at, just all these types of things that the defense is arguing. But
we all know Diddy's locked up now. The mugshots, the dawn raids, the army of superstar lawyers. It's almost routine at this point. What's only just coming into focus, though, is the scale. This isn't just about Diddy. It's not one bad weekend or some unlucky investigation. Behind the scenes, there are dozens of alleged accomplices still moving in the shadows, names murmured on private jets and whispered in penthouse elevators. The trial is peeling back layers that make Hollywood's glittering trophies look less like awards and more like evidence tags. And right at the center sits the Mansion of Secrets, the now infamous estate where stars were made, reputations destroyed, and, if reports are true, cameras caught everything. According to federal filings and trembling witnesses, the real events didn't start until the red carpet flashes faded. The so-called freak-offs were no rumor, and the leaks now gush out like a broken fire hydrant. Luxury suites, hidden cameras, baby oil by the crate. Cat Williams once laughed that off as a Costco special, roasting it on stage before tossing the idea in the trash. But investigators claim the darker twist was in the oil itself, laced with substances that left guests woozy, thinking they were being pampered while barely able to stand. And just as Cat hinted years ago, the biggest danger wasn't the acts themselves. It was who was in the room watching and what they planned to do with the footage after the lights went out.
Right, Jay-Z and Beyonce being two of the other 15 people in the room. So that'll just put into perspective of the type of company I was in.
We know now the so-called Mansion of Secrets wasn't just a flashy nickname. It was the headquarters of a system built on favors, blackmail, and the kind of tapes that could wreck a career, a marriage, or even a life. Former drivers, assistants, bodyguards, one by one they take the stand, deny at first, then stumble when the pressure mounts. Take Gene Deal, Diddy's ex-bodyguard. Outside the courthouse, he dodges questions, then reportedly lashes out when a YouTuber digs too deep. The streets can read that silence, and when Deal refused to address what went down with minors at those parties, his dropped head and hollow stare said more than words ever could. Inside, the courtroom plays out like a circus with a razor's edge. Diddy's exes, Cassie Ventura, Jane Doe, Dawn Richard, step up with testimonies that echo each other in chilling detail. Cassie's story lands hardest. Hotel assaults, obsessive calls, threats to leak explicit footage if she dared walk away. Security footage of Diddy attacking her in a hotel hallway stripped away any last excuse for denial. On the stand, Cassie revealed how she was forced into orchestrated freak-offs, every move filmed and locked away. And when she finally filed her lawsuit, Diddy settled faster than anyone expected, cutting a check to make it vanish. If that's what passes for innocence in Hollywood, then the rest of us must be living in a different world entirely.
They needed to show that there was an agreement, that the organization knew what it was doing, that it was an enterprise, not in law, but in fact, that people understood the object of the enterprise, which was to promote Sean Combs and his brands and sort of fulfill any deviant desires he may have had, and then to cover up any crimes committed over the course of fulfilling the desire.
And it isn't just the exes telling these stories. Even Diddy's own assistants have laid out the routines, booking hotel suites, stocking supplies, arranging guests who often had no clue what they were stepping into. One woman described infections, injuries, even demands for piercings, all because that's what he expected from his partners. Prosecutors don't call that a wild lifestyle, they call it organized abuse. And some in the courtroom whisper an even harsher label, a full-blown criminal enterprise. The chilling part. In Hollywood, plenty just call it business as usual, but let's not kid ourselves. Diddy didn't build this empire of control alone. That's where Cat Williams' so-called prophecy starts to look less like comedy and more like foresight. Online, the memes might get laughs, but the subtext is dead serious. Diddy's cornered, and if he falls, he's pulling others down with him. One viral comment captured it perfectly. I definitely think Diddy's going to tell on every last person in the industry. Just wait. And that's not just outsiders wishing, it's the very real fear gripping insiders who once shared those rooms. Now, Diddy's so-called friends are sweating harder than his enemies because they know the guest lists, the setups, and the camera angles every bit as well as he does.
I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Kid, I need another one. You here, get your number.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Which brings us to the question no one really wants to say out loud. Who else was part of this? Who profited? Who looked away? And who made sure the powerful stayed untouchable while others vanished? Cat Williams has never been afraid to drop names, and one of the biggest he's ever aimed at is Oprah. For decades, her image has been polished to perfection. But according to Cat, she's not just a TV icon, she's a gatekeeper, someone deciding whose stories get told, whose careers rise, and whose voices get buried. And Cat isn't alone anymore. The industry is suddenly buzzing with questions about Oprah's spotless legacy. Rapper 50 Cent has called her out for years, claiming she shut him down, dismissed his art, and built her empire by feeding on other people's pain. In his own words, she was completely against everything in my music, so she was never going to have me on that show. What once sounded like sour grapes now cuts deeper. Add in fresh accusations, like those tying Oprah to Harvey Weinstein's long-hidden crimes, and the picture shifts. Actress Rose McGowan flat out called Oprah as fake as they come, accusing her of protecting a broken system for her own gain. Suddenly, the accusations are stacking higher and higher, like a Jenga tower waiting for one wrong move. And when that last piece slips, the whole thing could come crashing down.
I'm one of the chosen high-ranked, know the dirt individuals, right? And so dirt responds as they should when the vacuum walks in.
Come on, are you a rapper? You rap on the side?
And now the rumor mill is running overtime. Online, theories spiral about Oprah's ties, direct or indirect, to both the Weinstein Circle and Epstein's world. No smoking gun has surfaced, but the photos and sound bites keep resurfacing. People haven't forgotten she once endorsed the so-called miracle healer, John of God, later exposed and convicted for horrific crimes in Brazil. And every time Oprah issues a statement of shock or heartbreak, another old snapshot goes viral. Another clip spreads like wildfire in a modern game of digital whispers. Her long-standing image as Hollywood's queen of empathy suddenly looks less like compassion and more like carefully crafted distance. Because the truth is, these are still just allegations. Rumors, feuds, whispers from insiders too afraid to go on record, or from rivals with scores to settle. But as Diddy's empire collapses and Cat Williams' old warnings sound less like comedy and more like prophecy, the question lingers. How many of Hollywood's icons are puppets? And who's really pulling the strings? Was Oprah just an unfortunate bystander caught in the wrong photo ops? Or was she quietly playing gatekeeper all along, deciding who got their golden ticket and who never even got through the door?
Tell you, I don't know how much, I don't like to say things that I know unless I see it. That there's a little difference, you know. But was it discussed? Was there descriptions from people I know that were at those? Yes, but here's another thing. So how many of these big entertainment parties and over the years and everything, with successful as you are, have you been around? Does anyone ever come up to you at a certain hour and say, okay, it's time to go? At those parties?
Even Dave's name surfaces in the online trenches. Did he really call Oprah a handler for Hollywood elites, or is that just another viral headline with nothing to back it up? Fans seize on a stray sentence, a half-remembered interview, then spin the rest into the narrative they wish someone would confirm. At this point, it doesn't matter whether there's an actual quote or not. Speculation alone has already done its work, forcing people to re-examine old photos, guest lists, and sudden career collapses. Because at the end of the day, Hollywood has always thrived on secrets. And now we're left asking how deep this rabbit hole really goes. Diddy may be the one in the orange jumpsuit, but if Cat Williams was right, he's only the tip of the iceberg, and the current could drag down faces we've all grown used to seeing at the top. The whispers in private lounges and boardrooms are growing louder, and nobody wants their name to be the next one leaked. This isn't about a handful of hangers-on. What we're hearing is a full-blown scramble, panic spreading from the top down to anyone who ever attended a party, signed a contract, or chose to look the other way. And as Diddy sits in a special housing unit in New York, every Hollywood power broker is calculating how much exposure they left behind over the years. They all want to believe they're untouchable. But the threat is real, hanging in the air like smoke. Because one thing is clear, Diddy isn't going down quietly. If the right deal is on the table, insiders say he could bring the entire system crashing down. Negotiations are reportedly already in motion. Prosecutors know that if he flips, the domino effect could stretch from late-night hosts to record label executives. And once the first domino falls, the rest scramble to cut deals of their own, betraying each other just to keep their names off the headlines. We've seen the snitch effect before, but never on this scale. Now, with federal investigators steering the ship, the stakes are higher than anything Hollywood has faced in decades. Multiple sources with knowledge of the talks say immunity deals and subpoenas are already being lined up, preparing for an industry-wide bloodletting. So who's sweating the most? The list is longer than a Grammy guest sheet. Music moguls, studio heads, A-list actors, producers, managers, even influencers who built their clout on party invites and blurry connections. A former road manager swears there's a black book already circulating among attorneys, cataloguing potential witnesses and targets. Meanwhile, industry veterans claim more than a dozen major deals have quietly collapsed in just the last 2 months as investors pull out, terrified of public fallout. So if a celebrity suddenly disappears from Instagram or skips a red carpet appearance, don't chalk it up to vacation. Chances are their crisis team is working overtime, scrambling to keep their client's name out of the next wave of federal filings.
All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it.
And if anyone still doubts the level of panic, just look at the moves happening in plain sight. Diddy's son, Christian, now calling himself King Combs, released a track with Ye, making it obvious where his loyalty stands. The hook, "Ain't going to sleep till we see Diddy free," sounds less like a song and more like a public declaration. Loyalty on the record, but behind closed doors, everyone is watching their backs. Even Ye, once hailed as the industry's rebel, made an appearance outside the courthouse. He never stepped inside, but his presence alone was enough to set off headlines and whispers. Meanwhile, celebrities keep dropping vague posts, cryptic emojis, motivational quotes, while others find themselves under direct fire, either on the witness stand or in front of reporters. The blame game is already heating up. Lawyers for one executive insist their client knew nothing about what really went down, while multiple former assistants have hired attorneys before agreeing to any interviews. No one wants to be caught speaking on the record. Not yet. But one truth is undeniable. In a world of surveillance footage and endless backups, deleted texts and half denials won't be enough to erase the evidence.
I want to start with alleged victim number 4, who goes by the name Mia. It's an alias. She is one of the people who is testifying where the judge has granted her anonymity. She is on the stand, but everybody in the courtroom has been warned. Do not reveal her identity. Do not even give a physical description.
As this legal storm rages on, Cat Williams looks less like a comedian and more like a prophet. His warnings, once mocked as paranoia, are now being replayed like scripture. Audiences can't help but ask, how did Cat see this coming? Was it street smart instinct, or was he plugged directly into Hollywood's machine? Back in January, on Shannon Sharpe's show, Cat flat out said he walked away from tens of millions just to avoid Diddy's world. P. Diddy be wanting the party, and you got to tell him no. I told him no. I got receipts for everything I'm saying. At the time, it sounded like bravado. Today, it sounds like a man laying down evidence before the fall. For years, Cat has argued that Hollywood isn't just entertainment, it's a system, spiritual as much as financial, where nothing comes free and every favor carries a cost. Critics dismissed it as conspiracy talk, but this trial is making his timeline look less like wild theory and more like a map of how the game is really played. He's hinted at secret societies, at artists who mysteriously vanish, at shadowy figures pulling strings from the sidelines. Even his casual jokes about rejecting party invites now sound like encrypted confessions, breadcrumbs pointing toward a bigger network hidden in plain sight. And look at how the tables have turned. Once blackballed, Cat is suddenly back in the spotlight, the only one bold enough to say aloud what others only whisper. His prediction that 2024 would be the year the deviants catch hell is playing out with uncanny accuracy. Each subpoena, each leaked receipt, each headline falling into place pushes his reputation closer to legend. Maybe Cat's just the canary in Hollywood's coal mine. Or maybe, all along, he's been holding the playbook the industry hoped would never see daylight.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and, smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, this guy has an addiction. It's not just once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
The cosmic angle can't be dismissed either. Beneath the punchlines, Cat's worldview has always leaned mystical, cycles, energies, reckonings, for those who hid their sins behind charity galas and red carpet premieres. Some fans joke he's reading horoscopes, others swear he has informants planted in every studio. The truth is likely a mix of raw intuition, lived experience, and insiders finally willing to talk once the spotlight shifts away from them. Either way, the effect is undeniable. Hollywood's aura is cracking, and Cat has become the mirror reflecting it back. With red carpets replaced by courtroom sketches, the tone has shifted from denial to outright desperation. The old playbook, hush money, airtight NDAS, backroom deals, just isn't working anymore. Even the best lawyers know they're fighting uphill, and the next phase could be devastating. A wave of high-profile names racing to flip before the hammer falls. That's Hollywood's deepest fear, not just facing justice, but being betrayed by their own circle. Whispers are already spreading about private jet logs, offshore accounts, and encrypted files tucked away in vaults. If even half of these rumors prove real, the industry isn't just facing scandal, It's staring down the collapse of a network that's controlled the game for decades.
You know, I suppose it could be coincidence. I don't think it's coincidence, and especially given the nature of the case.
Yes.
Because when you look at who is examining these various witnesses, you know, especially female alleged victims, of which there will be 4.
Yet, through all the chaos, the most unsettling question remains. How many other prophets have we ignored? For every Cat Williams, how many voices were silenced, blackballed, smeared, or quietly erased for daring to get too close to the truth? Was Dave Chappelle's walkout and those cryptic interviews another warning we missed? Is it coincidence that the ones who defy the system always vanish under the labels of mental health breaks or creative differences? Maybe this really is Hollywood's year of reckoning, with Cat as its unlikely harbinger. Because as the City of Fame trades designer sunglasses for prison jumpsuits, one truth can't be denied. The age of untouchable stardom is ending. The dominoes are already lined up, and it will only take one more snitch to send them tumbling. Behind the scenes, the power players hide behind lawyers and PR spin, praying the storm passes. But if Cat is right, there's nowhere left to hide and no secret safe from exposure. That leaves us with one haunting thought. Will Cat's truth finally force Hollywood to face itself? Or are we only watching the opening act of a far darker drama? So now it's your turn. Drop your wildest theories and boldest takes in the comments, because this story is far from finished. Stay tuned, keep your eyes open, and never forget, in Hollywood, the truth is always stranger than fiction. Until next time, stay curious and don't be fooled by the red carpet shine.